When we look at Ayurveda as a whole, the major issue with it is that it is considered to be extremely medicinal in its approach. And we always look at it as a cause-effect perspective. But
Mhm.
actually, Ayurveda as a whole, when you look at it from the prehistoric times, whenever it came into picture, the idea was that it is more about a lifestyle and a sustainable activity rather
Right.
than being a action-reaction process.
Mhm.
But the way it was designed, it was always meant to be something that was purpose driven. Somehow the way lifestyle has evolved over the period of time, Ayurveda and the way the lifestyle change occurred has not been able to keep pace with it, and it's still considered to be very much of a medicinal cause effect activity.
Sure.
Our idea was to make it more mainstream and make it more consumable and easy for consumers to get it, and also just ensure that it can be made in a form where consumers consume it as part of their daily routine.
Hi, Indraneel. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Dhaval. Good afternoon. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you so much. It is awesome to have you on this session. Great.
Wonderful. I look forward to it today.
Yeah. Hi, viewers. Good afternoon. So, welcome to the new episode of Sustainable Future Foods Talk. Today, we have with us Indraneel Chitale from Pune, India. Indraneel is a fourth generation entrepreneur at 80-year-old Chitale Group and co-founder at Herbie. He completed his engineering from Pune and parallelly worked with their dairy and pulping divisions during college days and also interned with GEA Foods Netherlands. He primarily focuses on manufacturing, R&D, automation, and supply chain. Under his expertise, the group has doubled their volumes in last 2 years. His current focus is into making healthier food alternatives for diabetics and various lifestyle enhancing products. Other than work, he is an avid music lover and a passionate biker as well. He is also currently pursuing executive program from Harvard. So, Indraneel, being a fourth generation entrepreneur with the world famous Chitale Group, what inspired you to launch Herbie? And also, if you can introduce what Herbie does.
So Herbie was a brand that was started with the idea of making Ayurveda accessible globally. When we look at Ayurveda as a whole, the major issue with it is that it is considered to be extremely medicinal in its approach. And we always look at it as a cause-effect perspective. But
Mhm.
actually, Ayurveda as a whole, when you look at it from the prehistoric times, whenever it came into picture, the idea was that it is more about a lifestyle and a sustainable activity rather
Right.
than being a action-reaction process.
Mhm.
But the way it was designed, it was always meant to be something that was purpose driven. Somehow the way lifestyle has evolved over the period of time, Ayurveda and the way the lifestyle change occurred has not been able to keep pace with it, and it's still considered to be very much of a medicinal cause effect activity.
Sure.
Our idea was to make it more mainstream and make it more consumable and easy for consumers to get it, and also just ensure that it can be made in a form where consumers consume it as part of their daily routine.
Mhm.
So we launched the first product range in Herbie, which is our herbal infusions. So this is caffeine-free infusions, which are a mix of herbs that are targeting specific features and functions like weight loss or diabetes or immunity or
Mhm.
just cooling as a whole, which is with rose extracts. So all of these are having the basis or the fundamentals of Ayurveda, but packaged in a form where it can rival a green tea that you guys have in the evening or in the morning, or something as a beverage that people can have.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do, is that create the traditional recipes in a format which is modern and acceptable in today's lifestyle, and just try to bring in the benefits that Ayurveda brings and the history and the recipes that come along with it, and just assimilate that into today's hectic lifestyle to give our consumers a better chance at their health.
Sure. Sure. So, as you mentioned that, of course, so at the moment you are doing teas under it, right?
Yeah, so it's not tea, it's herbal infusion, because what we are
Herbal
doing is not
infusion.
having tea at all. So this
Sure. Oh,
is
is it?
primarily just made of a mixture of herbs
Mhm.
without any caffeine. So there is no
Sure.
tea inside.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Got it. So, of course, building a brand isn't enough, and you must communicate that brand in everything you do, from marketing to advertising to product design to customer service. And unfortunately, many companies fail to deliver that consistency. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this with respect to both Chitale Group and Herbie?
Well, so the thing is that ultimately anything that is being retailed, it needs to have that consistency and quality assurance all the time. And the consumers need to get that experience each and every time that you're trying to do, or probably in process of continual improvement, try and get an upgrade from what they are doing today. So unless and until as a company philosophically we are following that, it is difficult for us to keep getting consumers back. Just doing a first time sale and ensuring that the consumers keep coming back and give you a continual sale is where actually you start making profits, and these consumers start becoming your brand ambassadors.
True.
So that's why there is a obsession with the idea of delivering that quality assurance and that feel factor, that form factor as well, and that experience, because that experience is basically going to be the reason why consumers keep coming back.
Right. Got it. So, of course, getting a deep understanding of what your potential customers do and identify a problem with worth solving it. So, to create products that win people's hearts and minds as well. So, you first need to understand their lifestyle beliefs, values, attitudes, etc. So, what advice do you have for young brands who are now breaking into a new territory?
Well, I think it's never been a better time to break into new territories and create disruption. The pace at which brands can be built today with the help of digital revolution that we have around us, and the cost of building that is a lot more cheaper than, say, in case of Chitale Group, which took, say, 80 years to become a brand that it is today. But that is how time was back then. But now the time has changed, especially with digital as a concept. You can build brands overnight.
Right.
So the question is that after you build a brand, what do you keep delivering, and what is the brand value that you want to try and retain, and want the consumers to know about or recognize your brand for? So if that why is clear, I think the brand sustains. And that's why I would be, advising all people who want to start their new brands, have started their new brands, or are trying that, to ensure that you keep your consumers happy about it and you communicate all of this very well. If you're able to do that and create loyalty in your consumers, that is when you actually start making sales that are genuinely impacting you and contributing to your growth.
Right, right. So, Indraneel, I mean, as far as Herbie is concerned, so initially you are doing it in India primarily, or globally expanding it?
So, Dhawal, what we realized when we launched Herbie and we did the first batching was that
Mhm.
India as a market had some time to develop in terms of understanding what Ayurveda was doing. Also, the big issue was that since we were comparing or competing with the likes of green teas, where there was a sachet that's costing rupees 2, going up
Mhm.
to rupees 20, going up to
Yeah.
rupees 200 if you want something really, really exotic. So
Yes.
consumers are spoiled for choice without understanding what's exactly going inside. And if
Sure.
you're going to try and spend that kind of money as a startup to create consumer awareness, that's not a very healthy thing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And we were not funded at that time.
Sure.
So we were running a tight shop, and we realized that probably even though it's expensive to market abroad, it's easier to convert that click and ensure the consumer remains loyal to you. So that's why
Right.
we focused our efforts abroad. Europe has been a big market for us. Japan has been
Sure.
a big market for us. US is a market that's recently started developing for us, and we are just working towards it now.
Mhm.
So our digital marketing efforts and the spend has been directed purely into the Europe, Scandinavia, and Japan markets for the time being, and we are getting great traction there, which is actually converting into orders. So it's not
Wow.
simply about people landing into our page and just viewing what we are doing, but they are actually buying that product. And we now see a point where, say, the third batch that we have rolled out right now,
Mhm.
we are actually having consumers who have come back. So that is a reassuring feeling.
Wow.
But what we are also seeing now is that post pandemic, India is also raising awareness. So we see that 30% of the people coming onto our website now are coming from India. So how do we do it efficiently and also communicate without compromising quality or what we stand for is a metrics that we are trying to figure out. And we are addressing it day by day now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And of course, I mean, so the kind of audience that you're targeting, are they primarily, I mean, non-Indians, or are you targeting Indians abroad?
Well, so it's a mix of both. We are not
Okay.
necessarily specifying that we want to sell it only to the Indian population. As I
Sure.
said, we wanted to make Ayurveda accessible globally.
Sure.
So we don't want to be biased in our approach only towards Indians. Any person who
True.
wants a healthier choice
Of course.
is free to buy our products, and that's how our communication, packaging, and approach towards consumer is.
Right. Right. So, I mean, what is that most welcoming and different thing about Herbie and its vision, if you want to tell our viewers about it?
So, Herbie is something where we have two other partners working with us onto this as well. One is Dr. Sukumar Sardeshmukh. So, Sukumar is a Ayurvedic Vaidya. Uh, he is a trained doctor in Ayurveda, and this is his 11th generation that is practicing Ayurveda.
Wow.
So,
That's
what we have
incredible.
is a foundation that is 11 generations strong. And these recipes that come are something that come directly from their, the annals of the history. And,
Right.
we have so much data and so much science around it, so much information about it, and so much cause and effect analysis around it that we've been able to formulate them.
Awesome.
And the other partner that we have is Chinmay, where Chinmay is a legal expert. He's a PhD in law and a practicing expert, but he brings in a perspective where we are able to protect our IPs, we are able to create value through it, and we are
Right.
also able to make sure that whatever we are doing, we can also do it at a B2B level, where that is also
Sure.
proving out to be a good business model in the time to come for
Sure.
us.
Awesome. Great. And so, of course, I mean, what do you do to recall a consumer back to you? If you can share some tips based on your experiences.
Well, so one of the best and the most efficient thing that I have seen about recalling, especially on digital, is emailers and
Sure.
newsletters.
Oh, is it?
It's such an understated thing, and I did not appreciate the importance that it could do, but we see it now, and that's just phenomenal. So the thing is that you are competing in a marketplace that's flooded with so many choice and so many
Yes.
options, and the consumer is getting bombarded all the time with so many things,
Yes.
physically and digitally. So we need to reach their inbox and we need to be there when they are in that mood. So what time do you target your emails? What time they hit their inbox? And what time you actually make sure that it's there in the back of their mind so that they make that purchase is where I think emails have been a great boon. Even cheaper and more efficient than digital marketing. Of course, campaigns work better with digital marketing also because there is an impulse buy factor to it. But with products like Ayurveda, impulse buying is very very rare, so we need to cultivate the story, we need to cultivate the understanding of what's happening, and once that story and the process and the whole experience is sold, the selling of the product is actually just a byproduct.
Awesome. Indraneel, I have two personal questions for you. One is, of
Yeah.
course, I mean, since you are a passionate biker and into business as well, so how do you manage your time both for your hobby and passion and your business?
So it's been a challenge of late, to be very honest, because I have been running the show at Chitale Group as well. Also,
Was
along
it?
with that, it's been a lot of work at Herbie, especially with business picking up much better than expected, and also having investors on board where we are also setting lofty targets for us
Right.
internally for that.
Right.
And along with that, managing family post pandemic, where it's not the easiest thing doing so.
Yes.
So the last 1 year, I would say it's taken a backseat to a certain extent in terms of me traveling too much, especially on
Right.
motorcycles. But music is something that I've been making time for. Fortunately, there is less socializing to be done, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
home and I'm able to enjoy playing music
Right.
pretty much, and that's a good thing to do. But I'm
Sure.
hoping that next year things improve, the economy opens up, also the travel opens up, and there are less
True.
absurd rules around this RT-PCR and all of this nonsense that all state governments are putting up, so that people can actually travel freely, because this is like modern day imprisonment, I would say.
Seriously. I can understand. And one more around this. So, if I can ask you your two personal goals, maybe short term or mid term, so what would they be?
In terms of my personal own growth,
Yeah.
well, that's going to make me think. But one thing I would say is, I think I have been trying to see how I manage my time better. And
Sure.
one goal would be that I move into a 5 day a week working from the 6 day that I do right now.
Right.
So how do I do that efficiently is one big question. That is a goal that I need to set. And the second thing would be that, make more time for biking.
Wow. Awesome. Great.
Correct.
So coming down to my last question for this session. So of course, we have seen that e-commerce is pacing up well, of course, especially during these recent times of pandemic. So I mean, how well has it worked for you? And also, is it a good entry level point for the young brands in the CPG industry?
Oh, yes, totally. So, if you are to ask me about how e-commerce is as a prospect for entry level brands, if you're doing an entry into the market, it is so flooded and so difficult to get shelf space on day one without eating into your profits. E-commerce is a great way to generate that pull for your brand before you actually reach bigger store avenues who want to stock your products. So you can always show those numbers and actually show that traction and show that data to your investors as well as to your retailers, and show that we have these many orders actually coming into us. We have these many people visit us. So there is inquiry and there is an interest for this, and all of that helps you build a brand pull that is very essential before you actually enter the general trade markets. Of course, if you're funded from day zero and you have a lot of cash to burn, you can always overlook e-commerce and go into the general trade market, but then that's not the most cost efficient thing that to be done as a startup.
True.
So that's what we've been doing as well, and it's only about a year later that we now see some traction coming in from the general trade market, where brands want to stock us. And we are in a position where we can at least sit on the negotiating table, because these bigger chains otherwise just rob you of your margins.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do we build our strength is also where e-commerce helps us.
Sure. I think these were really incredible insights, and really appreciate your time on this session today. So thank you once again for accepting our invite. And
I'm glad.
Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, glad to be talking to you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.